Hi, and welcome to the Woman Birth Collective's Pregnancy and Postpartum Summit. I'm your co-host today, Melissa Chin Casey, and in my Hakka Chinese language, Nai Sang Fang Nyuk Mi. Today I'm co-hosting with my teacher and wise woman, Sheila. Hi, Sheila. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, good morning, Melissa. Good morning. My name is Sheila Sims Watson. I am a community midwife, a licensed midwife here in Florida, Florida. I have a home birth practice, and I'm the mother of two sons and the grandmother to two grandsons. And I'm happy to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. So I asked Sheila to join us in co-hosting today because we have a very honored guest and wise woman with us here. And I wanted to pull in Sheila as another wise woman to have some reflection. But today we are talking to Wakila Gutstay, Louise McDonald Hearn. She is the condoled Bear Clan mother for the Mohawk Nation Gunyagahaga Council. Through her work as the matrilineal leader and mother, she is the founding member of the Council of Mohawk Women who are working to reconstruct the power of their origins through education, empowerment, and trauma-informed approaches. Louise champions the philosophy of Gotni Stasala, which is the mother law, a natural law that binds Ungwehamwe, or the Indigenous Kinship Society. Wagila Gutste, Louise, is the principal organizer of the Ohelogo, a traditional rites of passage ceremony for the Mohawk youth. Sheila?
Yes, Wagilagutse, or Louise, is a trusted advisor for families and community youth, working closely with them in their homes and schools. She bestows traditional names in the Longhouse and provides spiritual counsel for all those seeking support. She is the lead conductor of the Moon Lodge Society, convening women and girls on a monthly basis in line with the full moon circle, or the full moon cycle. Since 2005, she has guided hundreds of community families and volunteers through self-reflection and cultural instruction and ceremony.
Yeah.
It was presented at the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues, and she lectures regularly at universities throughout Canada and the United States on philosophies and self-determination in regards to women. Wagilagatse, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're so honored to have you here and to have share this space with you today.
I'm just as honored to be with you, wise women. It's a real transformative day to be inside the medicine of time, and I'm quite honored to weave together women's wisdom in a magical web of intuitive knowing, and also working from a place of the heart and of wisdom. I firmly believe that we all female life born into this world comes with already an entire body of knowledge from the very first breath that we take into this life. So it's just a matter of how we weave it together for a really strong knowledge system, and for systems of joy, which the world is lacking right now.
Yeah. So vital, so vital. So, Wagilagatse, could you share with us what is mother law and what is its significance?
Gani Stasla inside our Gunyagahaga Mohawk language, it's how we refer to a woman who is our mother. And so when we take the word Gani Stasla apart, that Gatniot at the beginning, Gatni is Gatniot, which means this is the way it is. And that sta is Gasat Stansla, which means strength. And the law means it's everywhere.
Mm.
So this is the way it is. And her strength, because it's feminine, is everywhere. Her strength is all around. And so when we refer to our mothers here in the language Ista, we refer to her, the translation of that would mean, she is my strength. You are my strength, you know. So with that, Gani Stansla, and what that, and the significance of that in Haudenosaunee, Ganyet-Gahaga culture, because, you know, we're the Six Nations of the Haudenosaunee, and the Ganyet-Gahaga, also known as the Mohawk people, are the Eastern doorkeepers. And so the foundation to our governance and confederacy can't exist until you have a kinship of women as the foundation. And the men become the wall and the roof to our governance, and also the voice. However, a man can't speak until a woman tells him what to say.
Mm.
So Gatni Stansla, mother-in-law, is vested in a matrilineal, matrifocal society founded in the upholding and reverence of the life givers, which is the mothers. And Gatni Stansla is founded on the genesis of Haudenosaunee people. And so our earth and our world began with a woman named Oji Jizo, which means mature flower, who fell from a celestial opening in the sky world. And you know, when you talk about the ring of fire at birth, well, basically the world that she came from was already dwindling and diminishing. And it was through her own persistence and intuitive knowing that she knew she had to leave that world and come here to create a new world. Mm. And so everything in our culture and our worldview and our perspective starts with this woman. So everything that we are doesn't begin with a male god, it begins with a mother who arrived here on this earth already pregnant with a daughter, and she already carried within her that primordial force of regenerative biology and the science of the ability to recreate, regenerate. So when she arrives here, Oji Jizo, she brings with her from that old world our consciousness. Mm. She also brings with her, underneath her fingernails, seeds from the life tree, or from the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. And she brings with her also songs, real old songs that we still know. And they're called seed songs, seed blessing songs. And so when she arrived here and the world was just water, it was her ability to speak to the animals, the water life that was already here. And she commissioned, or she didn't commission, but the animal world stepped up to this primordial female life. And they said, what is it that you need? And she says, I need some place to birth my baby, my daughter. And so the mink, the beaver, and the otter all dove deep into the ocean to retrieve from their earth, the primordial earth. And so these animals all failed. They died in their attempt. Then came along the muskrat, and he also offered himself he also died, but however, in his little paw, he managed to bring up a small paw full of earth. And from there, Sky Woman Ojijizo took the earth and she placed it on the back of a turtle. And she started to sing those old songs that she brought from the sky world, which is women's wisdom, women's way of knowing and weaving that regenerative force. And as she started to sing, she started to step on that dirt and she shuffled and she spread that dirt. And as she spread the dirt, the earth grew and it grew and it grew and it grew. And then as it grew, the seeds fell from underneath her fingernails. Grew those original seeds from another world. So that regenerative force still gets reenacted and replayed in our longhouses. And we say that the woman's song or the woman's dance, the woman's shuffle dance is the oldest song, the oldest. And it's not of this world, it comes from a celestial place. And so when the men sing that woman's song and the women get up to dance, we continue that shuffle as women do, and we go like this and we rock our babies as we dance, and that carries with it the instructions of how we conduct ourselves as women, and also our responsibility to earth and to life. And in my culture, women are in charge of life and men are in charge of death. Part of that, stems from the epochs in time where women or Sky Woman Ojijizo created the earth, and then came a time when first man and first woman was created, and then a set of laws came, and then the people had to deal with death. So they didn't understand death, and so came along another spiritual being who established within us the kinship networks of a matrilineal society, a matrifocal society, vested in elder women, lead women who discerned for themselves the moieties of their clans, founded in the connection to nature. So when I say I'm a Bear Clan mother of the Mohawk Nation, that is so ancient and so old. That goes all the way back to the weaving of the wisdom of the women in those kinship networks. And so we arrive in this moment knowing that what I'm responsible for is really ancient. And, I'm the matrilineal thread that started a long time ago. So part of that creation story in Gotni Stansla mother-law is the primordial force that makes this life continue. And now science tells us what mitochondrial DNA is. And I like to say that's the mother DNA, which means it's the furnace. It's the fuel that feeds the center. And as we know, how we govern ourselves as women is that we take care of all the details in the daily operation of our families, our communities. And, it's unfortunate that patriarchy left the women out of our political decisions. But the Haudenosaunee women never gave that up, So now we're standing in a modern time and we're seeing the earth rise again and the wisdom of the earth from the bottom of the ocean through the work that women do. And that's why for me, Gotni Stansla, mother-law, is so significant, because there's no question about it. You can't argue it. It's a standing piece of law that, that the continuity of life comes from the womb. And that's what we're in charge of as women, and the wisdom that comes with it. So as we weave women's wisdom into this intricate web of knowing, we stand in our power, empowerment, and in our authority. So, you know, now that we're on the cusp of a third world war, we as mothers need to stand in a collective authority to say we don't want that, and we need to call for peace.
I wanted to ask you about that shuffle dance. You said that through the dance and through the movement, shuffling the feet, swaying the arms like you're carrying your babies, and you said through that dance, um, the instructions for caring for the earth, I think is what you said, are remembered. I wanted to thinking about birth, especially natural birth and uninterrupted birth, where the birth is actually happening through that person's body, and we are just serving and supporting that person through their own movement. um, does that come with, it's like the instructions, you know, just going through the process of allowing the body to move and birth the baby, and then what happens when the baby's here and how, you know, that person moves and carries and holds, and does that come with a set of instructions, or can you speak to that at all, that concept?
Well, you know, to me, law is founded on precedence. What came first? And so when we begin to reenact the stories of our ancient grandmothers and grandfathers, we could, you know, we continue to uphold that important link in our human development. And so we do our best to be responsible in how we conduct ourselves and how we model behavior to our younger boys and girls. So as a woman dances, she is in total control of her own body and her own autonomy in terms of how she sees the world, how she addresses the world, and more importantly, how she sings to the world. Because in our culture, when a woman is ready to have a baby, she'll sing that song of calling that spirit, you know. So and when she dances, she's not only rocking or cradling her baby, but she's also rocking the cradle within her pelvis, you know. So we also recognize that her ovaries are the sky world itself. All those spiritual beings are still within her ovaries. And so, and we know that every female child born into this earth only has a certain amount of spirits within her, and not like men, how they can regenerate billions of sperm every day. Women only get a certain amount of that spirits within her, and so that's so most precious. And you know what, I forgot the question.
The question, which you beautifully said, she's rocking the cradle of her baby, and she's also rocking her pelvis, and she's rocking the universe and the spirits within the universe within her. And the question was about the dance of birth and how does that awaken any instruction or consciousness when the birth is uninterrupted and the birthing person, does her dance of receiving the baby and goes through the movement of what her body is instructing her or flowing into naturally without anybody interrupting that?
Mm, mm. Well, the incredible power of birth is, I often say when I'm working with young women, our babies are the wise ones. They're our teachers and we're the student as the mother. And so when a young woman needs to learn patience, that baby will teach her patience. And that baby will also make her wise and will also teach her how to be accountable and responsible. And that baby will also teach her how to worry. Us moms like to worry. And we also, I think the other important element that a baby in its wisdom brings to the mother is her ability to project a future. Because we always worry about what kind of future our babies will inherit. So that fuels us to seek more knowledge and to worry about the environment that our babies are growing up in. So I really like how you mirrored back to me what I'm saying, because it takes a collective web of knowers of women in order to model that continuous work of women. And our young daughters need to see us inside the practice of our work, so that we model the very essence of that Gatnistasla, that strength within ourselves. And we have to continue to show up for each other and to carry forward the importance of mother and uphold her. Because in a society where women are upheld and held in reverence, there is no hunger. There is no domestic violence. There is equal distribution of the wealth of a society. So for me, for quite a couple thousand years here, women in our worth have been really diminished. So when I try and champion Gatnistasla, it's to remind women of all races that we are responsible and that we have to step into our authority. And I'll use this word right here. We have to rematriate the sacred back to the mother. And in saying that, that's part of that mother law, is that, all things sacred to woman, to mother, to earth has to be returned to her.
And I know in Indigenous world, our bones, our artifacts, our pottery, our clothing, the bones of our ancestors have all been exhumed and put into museums. And then they use this word, well, we'll rematriate your wampum belts. Well, wampum is most sacred to us. It's part of our condolence ceremony. But they miss the point. Those belts aren't woven by men, they're woven by women. So all that is sacred, including our uterus, our milk that gets extracted from the mother needs to be returned to her. And in our culture, when we have a birth, we pay close attention to the placenta. And we also pay close attention to the veil. And we ask for that to be returned to us so that it can be returned to the earth. Even before colonization, women used to take their blood and return their blood inside bleeding lodges and return their blood to the earth or to the waters or to the plants. So a lot of that has been removed from us because, they deem it as, I guess, dirty. But, that's part of the power of woman, is to rematriate her body back into the importance of what she stands as, a standing body of justice and law within her own essence, to know that the world right now is going through a big mother hunger because the mother has been missing for a real long time. Hence, in indigenous societies, missing and murdered indigenous women, hence the dismissal and the demeaning of women, the legislative powers that be trying to control women's choice to her body and to her own birth. So, women have to stand together, and we have to understand what it is we are responsible for. So that's what I want to say about Gatnistasala, mother-law, and its significance is that if we don't power it up, nobody else is gonna.
Thank you. Thank you. In one of the things you mentioned when you were sharing the significance of mother-law is this knowing that women have. And, I'll often hear or say, I know, there isn't an exact knowing of where that wisdom or that understanding about this, about giving birth or some aspect of a woman's life, but there's this knowing, that we women have and we hold and really need to honor and acknowledge and not have it poo-pooed that whatever, but I appreciate, the mother-law and that, that story bringing some understanding to, that woman's wisdom that we hold deep, deep, deep in our consciousness, and that we really do need to acknowledge and have, honored and supported. Can maybe share with us your best advice for, pregnancy or birth or postpartum, sort of that something that, that feels like, women need to hear or honor, acknowledge in terms of pregnancy or birth or postpartum, maybe. Mm-hmm. And that's a big question, but yeah.
Yeah, well, my teachings have always been that, a woman is a walking prayer.
Mm.
And, when you call for the spirit of your baby, you every day, every sunrise, every sunset, you're praying for that spirit to travel, because, just as our sky woman traveled a gazillion miles to get here from another world, that spirit is coming from another place too. So you're walking, you're a walking prayer, and you're praying for 10 fingers, 10 toes, 2 eyes, 2 ears. You're praying for the safe passage of your baby from that spirit world. You're praying that they have developed lungs, that they have a good, strong beating heart. And, you're praying for a million things to go right. And, you want them to be, you pray, are you going to pray for a boy? Are you going to pray for a girl? Are you going to pray for your baby to be tall? Are you going to pray for what color eyes, what color hair? All those things you pray for. Who do you want your baby to look like? An old grandfather, an old grandmother, or an ex-boyfriend? No, just kidding. But anyways, you pray for those things, and then you pray for the purpose of your baby. You pray, whatever gift, because we believe that every baby in this world comes with a very special gift and purpose. So, are you going to pray for your son or your daughter to be a real good lacrosse player? Are you going to pray for them to be a real good runner or a seer or a medicine person or a leader? What does your community need in order for it to thrive? What is missing in your society? Do you want your baby to carry the wisdom of your ancestors? Do you want your baby to be a builder of a new community? Do you want him or her to have a mind of an architect? You want them to be a visionary. So every day that woman or that mother prays for the purpose of her baby. And the best advice I can give is to carry for every moment, because your body's going to give you all the cues you need anyways to prepare for that life that is coming. And for me, when a woman comes into blood, she comes into voice. And then when she becomes a mother, she becomes into her power. So I think to stand in acceptance of that huge responsibility and not to become frustrated with it, because women can find frustration in trying to become a mother, because everything about her unique self becomes tested and challenged. And as she comes into her power, she has to pass the test of knowing how to be tolerant and how to sieve through what is a real cry to what is a whiny cry. As us mothers know, right? But those are the things that help us to own our power, is because we can in dealing with the justice or the politics of our life, we can tell what is truth in our politics or what is BS in our politics. So that is the stepping stone to our evolution as women and standing in our power. But my teaching from my sister cousin midwife Kaji Cook has always been our knowing and our culture happens inside the practice. And it is a mother who can identify when things are amiss, because we have our finger on the pulse of our families, and we can tell when a child is sick, truly sick, or are they faking it. We can tell when the man is distracted from his responsibilities and needs to be corrected. So that kind of knowing comes from going through something really powerful in pregnancy, birth, delivery, and mothering. And a good mentee shared with me her own transformation when she literally felt that she left her body at the point of delivery and went to the sky world and retrieved her son and brought him back down and delivered him. So we have that ability to shapeshift, to leave this physical realm, enter another realm, go there and come back. So, as women, we stand at the door of life and death. And in that moment, we can choose to keep that life or we can choose to send it back. And that's how powerful we are. And, I just want to talk a little bit about abortion, because that seems to be, the headline in news these days. And abortion was commonplace in my grandmother's world. And it wasn't so much about her ability to keep the life or let it go. It was about, do I have the ability to sustain that life? And so a woman in her power, if she knows herself well enough, becomes pregnant, has the ability to call for a spontaneous abortion that doesn't require the intervention of medicine or of surgery or anything like that. So to me, that's how powerful a woman is. She can choose to keep that life, or she can call upon the universe and upon creation to return it. That's how strong her body is. So if we can teach our young girls at the point of puberty, when they're coming into their blood and coming into their voice, that's how strong they are. We armor them with some really ancient wisdom.
Oh, beautiful. Can I want to speak to that abortion, being able to powerfully create a spontaneous abortion. What comes to my mind is knowing the body and knowing the ovulation time and knowing the conception time and always being aware of if today is a fertile day or not a fertile day, and when is the blood coming and what is the moon doing. And in my mind, I think it's a lot easier to call in that spontaneous abortion if you can know when you're conceiving, that moment of conception. And I'm just wondering, is that a limiting belief that I have, or is it actually working with the body in those early stages and phases? Do you have any insight on that?
Oh, absolutely. Historically, my grandmothers had their hands on a national treasury, but they also had their hands on the reproductive treasury, I guess you can call it too, is because they determined how many babies were going to be born in a given year, and they believed that there should be one adult per child. They didn't believe in these huge multiple births that weren't sustainable by one person or one woman, right? So because of the conditions they lived in, which were very much in nature and very harsh and very physically demanding and quite rigorous to a pregnancy, because the body goes through a lot in order to carry a pregnancy, they determined, how many babies we need this year and how many we can sustain to feed, right? So part of that was, of course, women were so fit back in the day that, it was usually in the winter when they didn't move so much that, women didn't always bleed. They bled at a time of rest in connection to the moon. And also we had certain plants here that could also call forward unwanted pregnancy, because it had to do with how women controlled the economy in terms of the food supply. And so, but to me, it wasn't just physical, it was also spiritually and mentally. Am I, as a mother, able to provide, nurture, nourish, and sustain this life that is now coming toward me? And to me, through my own experience, being inside of pregnancy when I was, my mother had just passed away, and I got pregnant again, and I was just so grief-stricken and so exhausted, because I am a mother of 5 children, and I had to sit back and recognize my exhaustion. And so when I say a woman is a walking prayer, I surrendered to the universe and said, if this baby is meant to be, then I need to be shown. I need the energy. If not, then please make it turn around and go back, because I don't have it right now. I can't carry a healthy pregnancy mentally, physically, emotionally. I was gone. And so in that prayer, I had a dream about my mother that had passed on and my auntie. And those old ladies had a way about making medicine. And in my dream, I was in a 200-year-old farmhouse with pots of medicine boiling, and it was pungent in the air. And my mother had her back to me, and I was on a cot in that old farmhouse in the kitchen. And she turned around and she had a baby in her arms all wrapped up. And in my dream, I had just given birth. And my mother turned around and said to me, a girl is coming. And she comes upon the wind, and she comes from the 1600s, and she brings with her a gift, and she needs to be born. So surrendering to the universe, to the dream world, to the wisdom of the grandmothers, I surrendered. And so the following morning, I woke up like I had just been infused with atomic energy. My depression was gone. I had renewed strength. and I had a new outlook. And so in my prayers every day, I said, help me understand that dream. Old ones, help me understand. And they kept that secret from me for 24 years. And it wasn't until this past October that the reason for that dream was revealed to me, why my daughter had to be born. Because back in October, she gave birth to a son that was born of extraordinary circumstance. And he was born in the veil. So with that kind of wisdom, sometimes you don't know in the moment. So, for me, in those moments, time doesn't change, but everything inside of time changes. And so, that was a 20-year prophetic dream I had, but I had to wait, those 24 years in order to begin to understand the actual meaning of it. So now my job as a grandmother is that I gotta downfend my grandson, and I gotta protect his innocence from the intrusion of any ill-willed people, So I have to downfend him, and downfending is a term we use in our culture, which means protecting the innocent of the child, which means you gotta keep him away from argument. You gotta keep him away from war. You got to keep him away from the ills of the world, like addiction, like murder or fighting. You protect his innocence until the age of adolescence. And so we call that okologo, keeping them under the husk, because one of the seeds that Sky Woman brought with her was our sacred corn. And so our whole epistemology around our worldview happens and comes from the wisdom of the corn. So, from conception to birth to, I guess from the womb to the tomb, everything has to do with our sacred corn. And so we call that from the time of conception to their adolescence, they're under the husk. And so they're encased in this protective layer. And it is not till the time of adolescence, when a young woman comes into her bleeding time, or a boy into his voice change, that we begin to pull back the layers of husk, and we begin to reveal its living core, and we begin to guide the growing process of adolescence into young adulthood. So it becomes a ritual of transformation. And then, part of that whole process is we do this awakening the seed ceremony with our young girls, and we address their ovaries, and we address and sing for them those ancient seed sounds. And I kneel in front of that young girl's pelvis, and I hold her pelvis under an apron, under a shroud of wisdom. And then we put around her the four corners, her four pillars, which would mean her mother to the left of her, closer to the heart, and to the right of her would be her grandmother. And behind her would be her auntie or a sister. And then the clay mother kneels in front of her, and she begins to gently rock her pelvis and bring her focus and her awareness to her womb, to her ovaries, because that to me is the regeneration of our creation story, our Genesis. And so when we talk about a woman falling from that celestial opening in the sky, that girl is a reenactment or a living embodiment of that creation story, because as the ovum falls from the ovary, again, it's falling through that darkness, through the fallopian tubes. And then, part of our creation story talks about the birds and how they caught her to gently place her on the back of a turtle. So we talk about the flagella and how it just moves that, ovary. And also, as part of our creation story, we believe that conception happened in the fall. So that's when the sperm meets the egg in the fall. So as part of our creation story, the meteorite, which was the masculine energy, is the one that impregnated our sky woman. And so when she lands here, she's already with child. So right from the get-go, the Haudenosaunee, their instructions have been set. We're a people of cultivators and procreators. So we like to plant our sacred corn and we like to make babies. But everything comes back to the original instructions, that original knowing. And that's where we springboard from, is the continuity of those stories living within our young girls as we do that awakening seed ceremony, and we sing those old seed songs. And then we ask the girl, tell us about your matriline. What was your mother's name? What was your grandmother's name? What was your great grandmother's name? What was your great, 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 great? As far as she can go to remember. So we put into her consciousness that whole line of mothers that prayed over her to be here. And so we try and let infuse in them the knowing of 7 generations of women that came before her, because she's responsible for the next 7 generations that is coming ahead of her. So, you know, that part of that awakening seed ceremony, it's to honor her power within her body, her reproduction. And so we move her consciousness there, and we also empower it. And sometimes when I kneel in front of a young girl, I will see those unborn faces. And they're in rows, just like our corn, the kernels of corn. And I see face after face, and I wonder which one will step forward to be born through the body of this young girl. And then sometimes I see no faces, and I see that this young girl will be barren. So that I don't tell. But anyways, that's the power of vision within women, and our power to see those faces we don't see yet. And then to also remember the faces that got us here in this moment. And it's like rows of corn. And we never want to be that missing kernel in that row of corn. And we always want to know ahead of time how it is that we can continue the power of the knowledge and the wisdom that rightfully belongs to our young daughters and our young sons, because that's a true inheritance. That's wealth beyond the imagination.
Yeah.
I kind of went into the question you were going to ask next, which is our puberty rite that we call a hologo, our rite of passage, which is really, you know, a ritual of transition. You know, it's guiding the adolescent from, you know, because it's, you know, adolescence is such a turbulent time when our children are beginning to make decisions, and sometimes the decision they make can, you know, affect them for the rest of their lives, especially if it gets off track. And so what we do is a guided process, guided by, you know, our knowledge keepers, our medicine people, our chiefs, our clan mothers, and our families, because they're required to show up with an auntie or uncle to help them through that process. And it's states of deprivation where we remove from them what they know now their life, which is food and water. And we remove from them the mother and the father as their guiding posts. And we pull in the aunt and the uncle. And then in an integrated process, we allow them to go on a vision quest or a fast, which means we deprive them of the basic elements to life: food, water, companionship. And then we sit them on the breast of our earth mother so that they can recall for themselves those ancient teachings. And then it's 1 year, or it's 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. And in their 4th day of their, or the 4th year of their vision quest, where they actually cry for a vision to call forward their purpose in life, we celebrate them. And we dress them in the old clothes of our ancestors, which is the deer hide, and we make buckskin outfits for them, and we adorn them with our wampum shells, and, you know, we sing them old songs, and then the community comes out and the families come out. We celebrate them for no other reason than to say that they're our children. And now it is, they have to own their generation, and we propel them into the future as leaders. And so I stand in witness of miracles all the time inside the ceremony, because I can tell who's going to be a chief or a clan mother or a healer or a great lacrosse player. You can tell, or who's going to be a great hunter, you know, or who's going to be our scientist, or who's going to understand the stars and the moon. So you can tell, but you don't tell them, because that's for them to know.
That is beautiful. And
yeah.
so
But
simple.
anyways, yeah, you know, I love talking about birth, because, you know, it is in my own experience that I have discovered that if it weren't for the power of a birth, I would have never found my own power to voice, and understood how connected I am to earth, to water, to moon, to stars, to the sun. I wouldn't have known that I'm connected to something greater than myself. I would have been very selfish.
Yeah, birth is very powerful and such a transformation. And that's part of the message of this this broadcast, is that we can really use birth as a transformational energy and call in the things that we want for ourselves, in addition to the things that birth will give us and the universe will give us. We can kind of really honor the power and consciously call in the things that we want to create as well.
Sheila's back.
Hey, Sheila.
We keep missing Sheila.
Hi.
Hi, I am so sorry. That is this beautiful mama who feels like her, she's calling her baby Earthside very quickly, is what she's sort of feeling. Yeah. And so I think I may need to get ready to head back to her. Just listening to her voice and what this baby spirit is telling us. But I'm so intrigued by this conversation that we're having. Yeah, I think I have a few more minutes, so I don't want to just say goodbye, but I do have a few more minutes, so I'd like to just continue to hear, you know, the conversation a little bit more, and then I'm going to head out.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you had any remaining. I mean, I could talk about birth all day.
Well, we can listen to it all day long, but
yeah, I probably could, right? Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful ending, maybe wrap up to this particular talk.
Yeah, I loved the way you know, framed the ability to sustain, and I think that's where I had to go and talk with it. It was the dad that called, so you know when the dad calls, you know, but yeah. The ability to sustain, to provide, to nourish, to sustain, those are just so key and important. And I think sometimes we don't look at it from, you know, from maybe that perspective, because probably the woman is probably always looking at it from that perspective, but we don't necessarily maybe, I mean, the society that we live in when we're talking about abortion and all of that stuff, you know, see it from that way. And I really hold that. I like the way that, you know, felt when you said, you know, that woman's ability to provide, nourish, and to sustain. That's the key question, I think, that should be honored. And, you know, yeah. So, and.
No, go ahead.
No, that's it.
Well, you know, I think about women and their bodies, you know, it's been kind of made a commodity, right? So as long as the system can make money off our bodies, they spin the narrative to make you believe you need something else besides your own body to do the work, right? But we know that there's no money to be made in breastfeeding, and you know, if we return to the natural ways of how our body works, you know, everything's free. It should be free, right? But you know, as long as money can be made off of a woman's body, our bodies will always be grounds upon which will be molested, I guess you could say. And there'll always be attempts at extracting our power, removing our power. So to me, we have to take our own wealth back into our own wombs, and you know, rebirth for ourselves a new way of knowing, believing, and moving about the earth. We have to mobilize this kind of wisdom, because there's a lot of moving parts to it, but for me at the end of the day is that, you know, if your body is a container of wisdom and wealth, would you not want to keep that with you? I mean, I think we got to quit giving it away and hold it close and treat it most precious. Because you know, when we allow others to dictate the narrative to us, then we allow ourselves to experience unpleasant things. But you know, we have the authority because we're the ones that raise the sons who become you know, the destroyers of us. So we either raise them to break us or protect us. But we're really the ones.
I appreciate that so much because I often, I'm a mother of sons and a mother of grandsons. I often, you know, when I'm with a mama and she's, you know, knows or that it's going to be a son, or I feel like, you know, as a woman and a mother, I have so much responsibility to raise this son to be a man who is caring and peaceful and respectful and loving, you know, of women and this earth. It's such, I feel that it's a big responsibility as a mother of sons. And so I appreciate that under the husk, the protective layer for our young boys, that's so necessary and it's so precious, you know. So I appreciate that and very much. Thank you.
Yeah, there's so much more I could share, but I know we're running out of time and you got a birth to attend to. Wow. What a time to do an interview when that spirit of that baby's coming in, you know, it's gonna really empower the work and the collective, you know, in the workshop that you're putting out there, you know, the event that you're having. I think it's synchronicity, I guess, and the ancient grandmothers, all our grandmothers are up there, are just, you know, they're working their magic to make sure that you know, we all meet each other, but hopefully someday in person.
Yeah. I am going to take both you and Melissa with me and put in my little bag when I'm there. And so the spirit of this time we've shared together is going to come into this birth. And as this young spirit comes earthside, then you'll be cheering them along. But there's no coincidences in life. And this mama's been sort of waiting, you know, for this youngin' to come, you know, it's been like this. And now the spirit's ready to come. So
yeah, and I just want to share with you real quick, you know, the inside the medicine of time, you know, my cousins, the ancient ancestors, they believe in the Mayan calendar. And what tugs at this baby is the energy of the tush or the toe. It's the fish, the tear of jade, and the drops of rain. A good day to pay spiritual and financial debts that you are old. And then today, the day, Monday, March 14th, this is the day, it's a pivotal day. The number behind it is 7, standing between the heart of the earth and the heart of the sky. This is the day of the canine, the guardian. People are zealous to guard the sacredness of ceremony, to identify and punish intruders, those not disciplined to participate, benevolent to friends and fierce to enemies. It's steady to reward or to punish those who disrespect the days and the spirit of the family. This is a good day to ask for mystic insight for leaders so that they can seek and discover hidden things so that they can be just. And today, it's strong sexual energy, sometimes hard to restrain. When this energy is defined, people make loyal friends and husbands and wives. So, you know, the canine or the dog, which is the guardian, is the day that we're under. But, you know, inside the medicine of time, there's always a day guardian. And so you can tell that mom, you know, the guardian of the Tish and the lucky number 7 is given to this son or this baby that's going to be born today. That's from the, you know, medicine of time that my sister cousin Gaji Cook always governs birth by, is to know that there's bigger forces out there that are spiritually, you know, helping our babies to guide them in.
Yes. Yes. Aw, thank you so much for that. Thank you. Melissa, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheila. I'm so glad you were here. This is so beautiful, putting all of our energy in. And thank you, Mama Bear, so much. I was taking notes on all these just gems and beautiful, beautiful pieces that you were sharing. So thank you. I really appreciate it. And
Mama,
Sheila, I'm not going to keep you because I know you'll stay here forever. So
Mama Bear, thank you.
Thank you, Sheila.
Peace.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you so much. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to, can you share, are you getting this from a website? I would love to look up that medicine of time.
Just
actually,
put in the Mayan calendar, or you can go to Gaji Cook's. She does a daily post.
Yeah.
Gaji is Katsi,
Mhm.
and Cook. And on her post, you'll see it, the 7 Tiash, I believe, or Tish, Monday, March 4. I don't speak Mayan, but anyways, March 14th. And
She does this on her Facebook?
on her
or in
Facebook
her-
every day.
okay.
Every day. Yeah, and she follows that 20-day cycle of the wheel that is moving like this.
Right.
Yeah.
And I believe the year is comes to completion in 260 days, which is the same completion for a gestation of pregnancy.
That's right. That's right too, Melissa. Yeah. The old keepers of time used to follow everything about the gestational cycle, right? Of birth. Yeah. Even in our great feather dance that was given to us as one of our ceremonies, when the men sing with the turtle rattle and they the beat. And a good friend of mine is a OBGYN up at Upstate Medical Center. So the first time he came back to the lawn house, and he's a Oneida Wolf Clan, he said there was no mistaking, because I hear this every day in ultrasound, is that beat. And here it was in our great feather dance. He said there was no mistaking that's the heartbeat.
Yes.
You know? Yeah. And I was just like, wow. Our ancestors a long time ago had such deep, profound knowing, and they were so calculating on how they measured time based upon. That's why I say mother law. It's so primordial, right? Is your little guy in the room?
He is. He's hungry. When you were talking about that beat, here he is. Sheila, who was my teacher of midwifery, she taught me to rock when we hear the heartbeat, so we have it in our bodies that, okay, is this the beat that feels good, or is it feeling a little off? And it just reminds me of that rattle.
Yeah, it's love it. It's
I know. I would love to reconnect, since you have so much to share, and you obviously love talking about it, but I think today we're this is a beautiful, beautiful sharing. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful.